San Antonio. I'm here with world famous Daniel Martinez. He's head of student performance at Trinity University. I think I said that right.
Yes,
And so we've known each other for many, many years. Okay, you know, he's helped train a couple of my patients, my kids, which I'm super grateful for.
Yep.
And what we did today was a body composition analysis. And hats off to Daniel. He did better than anybody I've had here. I've had, world team soccer hopeful, did better than that, did better than a D2 wrestler. So, he's doing great. So.
DEXA's gold standard, right,
Yeah.
as far as body composition. So I wanted something objective and firm that wasn't room for measurement error via the actual person doing the tests. So that's assuring for me, even though the standard of DEXA tends to, you come in a little bit higher. So, you'll hear people floating their numbers around percentage body fat, and most of the time those numbers are inflated in those conditions. So, I'm grateful for the measurement, and then I worked really hard this summer and dialed in my nutrition and really emphasized feeling good, and my energy levels have been off the charts. So that's just something that, once you get that wheel turning, it gets its own momentum, and it's been fun.
Good. So just out of curiosity, because I get a lot of my education about fitness from you, and I realize how dumb I am. And so kind of tell me a little bit about the kind of the neuro aspects of cardio and the weight range. We talked about the HIIT interval training that we do on the road bike, going into the eccentric stretch of the heart, and just educate San Antonio on that a little bit.
So there's a couple of different ways to approach cardiac adaptations, right? And you can work towards more we call like neuromuscular elements, which is when you're going to get into high intensity interval training most often. And that's a lot of times what you're getting when you're doing cardio in like a group format, is like it tends to be that way. CrossFit's model allows you to have a cardio component, but again, most of the time focused on intervals. And intervals can be great, generally in durations of 6 to 8 weeks, and then at that point you plateau and you're basically just punishing yourself. There's nothing that's easy about a hard interval. That's why it's called high intensity interval training. But at the same time, a lot of people, I think, don't have the consistency with intervals to truly generate the adaptations we're talking about. So for instance, Tabata protocol is something that people who spend any time in fitness will be familiar with, and most people recognize it as 20 seconds of something like bodyweight squats or even burpees, and then you take 10 seconds rest, 20 seconds, 10 second rest. You go through that 8 times, right? It's brutal, absolutely brutal. But the original intensities used in the Tabata research were 170% of what's called VVO2, which is your velocity at your VO2 max. So basically imagine you're going all out as if you were running a mile, and then you do that for 20 seconds, you get 10 seconds of rest, and you go again, and you do that 8 times. So at 170%, that's super intense. And most people will never touch that in a high intensity interval training class, or even in our cardiac session, because it's absolutely brutal. So what we're really trying to look at is try to find an envelope function, right? Like where we can get someone where we know they can execute the mechanics efficiently, right? That they don't turn it into, like sometimes even well-trained athletes can occlude, which is when they start stiffening up in certain areas to try to drive the effort a little bit harder. Anytime someone tries a new strength exercise or cardiac exercise, a lot of times you'll bring that method of providing stability to your body into exercise, and that changes how your body responds to the stress. So the eccentric cardiac adaptations you were talking about involve lower intensity, steady state training. That can be done in a couple different ways, but importantly is that you're giving your body enough time to generate an explosive effort, but with adequate time for respiration and to allow for recovery from rep to rep. So it's not of the same intensity, but that will actually have huge benefits to recovery, circulation, to reducing inflammation from hard strength power training. And so it's just part of the harmony you try to provide in a good training program.
Well, I've been doing that in my training analysis. He kind of pointed out some flaws that I was doing, and it's really helped me recover, and I feel better. And I noticed my resting heart rate when I wake up in the morning is lower. So I think it's kind of a clue that I was missing out on just some longer, less intense sessions.
Fitness ultimately is like about consistency, and then the reality as part of that consistency is I always ask people, like, you know, whatever your approach is, how's that working out for you? And you've got to have some way of measuring that. And when you're doing that, and if you can be objective, then really all it means to get more fit is to stop breaking promises that you've made to yourself. It's just to follow through, and if there's an intensity that you know you have to touch to go further, then it's just committing to making that effort.
All right. Well, thanks for dropping some knowledge today. Great seeing you, Daniel.
Good to see you.
All right. Done. Kobe Ryan.